Hello, thank you for joining us. This program is brought to you by Mahabharat Itusan, Broadcast Service, American Center, English Service, here in the Washington, D.C. studio. Today we are honored to introduce our remarkable guest. This high school graduate achieved a perfect SAT score and is bound for Harvard University to further his education. With the support of God, his parents, friends, and community, he has reached this incredible milestone. Without further ado, let's proceed with the program.
My name is Ethan Ristu. I was born in Alexandria, Virginia, DMV native. Lived in Ethiopia for 3 years, came over when I was 4. I've been part of Mahabharat Itusan through their pre-college Bible study group, where I served as a program leader for a little bit. And I just finished high school, and I'll be heading to Harvard College in the fall.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What about your background? Tell us a little bit about who you are. Who is Ethan?
Okay, it's a big question. Like I mentioned earlier, DMV area. Born in Alexandria, Virginia, and I've kind of lived across the DMV, the Moco, Alexandria County, Arlington County, all of the above. Who's Ethan? I'd say, throughout the years, I'd consider myself somebody who's very passionate about a lot of things. I love to run. I love spending some time in the gym. I love to read. I'm really interested in current events and social justice issues as well, which I've started taking more involvement in high school. So I say that in a nutshell, that's Ethan.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So you told me a little bit about yourself. Who helped you get to where you are now? Okay.
I'd say any discussion of who I am is incomplete without my parents, so I'll start there. I'd say starting with my dad, he's been a really big influence in my life. I guess he's kind of been a backbone in who I am. Ever since I was little, he's really believed in me intellectually, academically, and he was always pushing me from a young age, whether it's, taking the harder classes or, doing these like math and English workbooks on the weekend or, trying to make sure I'm in the best school system and stuff like that. He always believed I had a certain potential, and he was always pushing me to achieve it. I'd say, and then my mom was also a great influence on me. She always cared on a very deep level about me and where I'm going. She was the one who, ever since I was young, made sure I was involved with the church. I would go to Sunday school and know about my prayers, about our church's history, about my history. So spiritually, I'd say she's kind of been my foundation throughout these years. She's the one who, because of her, moving forward, I'll be that much closer to the church and that more in touch with my spirituality.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned your dad was your academic backbone, and then your mother, which is your spiritual backbone. I wonder, what about your anyone outside of your family?
Okay, there's a lot of people, I'd say. Church has been a great place of support for me. I'd say really talking about like my personal circle of like friends and mentors and teachers. I'd say, especially starting in high school, I've been very blessed to have a really strong circle around me. I think early on I found teachers and mentors who've kind of, encouraged me to think about, who do I want to be outside of like professionally successful? And what does it mean to give back? What does it mean to, make a difference in my community? Beyond that, I'd say I'm very blessed to have the friends I do have, both within the Ethiopian community and outside of it. I'd say, like within the Ethiopian community, they help me, they keep me grounded in my culture. Whether or not, anything we're doing is related to, the culture, whether it's talking to my friends who are diakons, or whether it's just relaxing or joking around or having late night calls, they really help me feel grounded in who I am. I'd say the friends I've made outside of that at school, very special people as well. They're the ones who've been with me in good times and bad. The ones who, I lead my clubs with. They're the ones who, keep me laughing, and they're the ones who I kind of model on like who I want to be like in the future. Like whether it's I see in them, I see strength, I see kind of self-assuredness, I see they're humble, they're caring. That kind of stuff I try and find in my friends, and I try to emulate. So I'd say I've been very blessed on all those fronts.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you have a very much a well-rounded tribe that's at your corner and is there for you. And they say, whoever you spend the most time with is essentially who influences you. So what motivated you to excel academically specifically?
That's an interesting question. I'd say, I don't know, when I was going through it, I don't know if I ever thought about it in that terms. I guess ever since I was young, I've always thought, if you're going to do something, you got to do it 110%. You know, it would be, when it came academically, whether it's, late nights, early mornings, whatever it was, I say I wouldn't really, it's hard to explain, but I'd say I didn't really, push it to get there, to achieve kind of like, goal of getting to a great college, getting those perfect scores on the report card. I'd say I kind of did it kind of for myself. It's an interesting frame of mind, but for me, I always wanted to push myself. I always want to be a better person. Like, it's always like, I never wanted to be static. Always wanted to see, all right, this is who I am right now. I know I can do more. Let me see how much further I can go. And I'd say for me, ever since I was young, I've always wanted to be constantly improving. I always wanted to, I guess you say like sharpen my craft, hone my skills. And the idea that you can keep on getting better, for me, that was exciting. And I've always wanted just to keep on pushing, I'd say.
A growth mindset is
Exactly.
what you had. So someone told me that you got a perfect score on your SAT, and you can't just conjure up that score without putting in a lot of hard work. So tell us a little bit about your study habits, what strategies helped you succeed.
Okay. I'll start with the SAT score, kind of how I prepared for standardized tests. So for me, I took the SAT December of my junior year, winter junior year. Okay. It's a little bit earlier than most people take it, but I remember I'd wanted to get rid of it early, and my dad thought it would be a good idea as well. So I started studying the summer before, and I don't know if it was the healthiest study habits, but I went a little bit overboard, I'd say. I remember like summer going to junior year, every Saturday I would sit down, I'd go on like Khan Academy, or I'd go online looking for like past tests. I would do a full test every Saturday. And then, after I graded and see how much, what I got right, what I got wrong, I'd like keep this little notebook, and I'd write down like every single question. I'd write like, okay, this was the right answer. Why did I get it wrong? I'd like write a full explanation. I do that for the whole test. And then I'd look over it, and then next week just rinse and repeat, do the test over. And then once the school year started, I remember like 2 or 3 times, I'd have less time obviously than the summer to study, but like 2 or 3 times a week, like I'd print out a section of an SAT test, whether it's like the reading section, the writing, math, no calculator. I'd do it before school started. I'd grade it by myself, at lunch or after school. I'd review the mistakes, then I kind of wash, repeat. And really it was just more quantity. Like I just did so many practice problems, so many tests, that at some point I kind of just got it down. And when I took it, I got very fortunate. I did well enough, and I got a score I'm happy with. I'd say kind of in general, I'd say my study habits kind of resemble that, where it's always very much, I kind of prioritize my academics a lot throughout school, where it's, okay, if I have, this test coming up, or I need doing poorly in this class, all of my energy be directed at it. I would get a very kind of narrow vision, and I would just attack the problem. Whether it's, studying during lunch, whether it's, waking up extra early in the morning, an hour before school started, just to work on stuff. And kind of more than any particular, study strategy, how you read it, how you do it, I feel like different strategies work for different people. I think what's more important is the mindset, where you have to be willing to commit 100% to it. You can't really be kind of flaky, where it's like, oh, I have a lot to do, but I'd really love to go out with my friends, or I want to watch this movie, or like I want to scroll. And it's hard, but it pays dividends at the end. So I kind of just say, brute force, kind of just attack your books. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that you have the determination, the focus, the tunnel vision, and when you put your mind to something, looks like you want to make sure that you put your all into it. What about your extracurricular activity? And you have your studies. You also, I'm sure you do extracurricular activities as well. You mentioned that you were a runner. And, on top of that, tell us a little bit about that. And how do you balance it all? Because I'm sure we all have, like you said, you have friends that are pulling you to the side. Maybe you're like, oh, let's hang out. There's also other social responsibilities. So I wonder, on top of your academics, tell us a little bit about your extracurricular activities and how you balance it all.
That's a very good question. I'd say, earlier I kind of said, I made my academics my priority. And like, I agree with that 100%. But I definitely had a social life. I definitely was involved in things that I liked. So a big part of it came down to time management. I don't think you should just be, completely married to your books, and I don't see the light of day outside. But kind of to begin with the question, some of the extracurriculars I did, I ran throughout most of high school. I did cross country and track, 9th to 11th grade. I took a break 12th grade to work on my college applications. But I loved hurdles. I did cross country in the fall for some time. I like weightlifting. I go to my school's gym often. Outside of that, I'm obsessed with like international relations and current events. So I joined our school's Model UN team, our school's international relations team. By 12th grade, I was just really involved, so I became the president of that, and it was a great opportunity, going to Model UNs, leading the club. At our school, I was also involved in quite a few affinity clubs. My school, unfortunately, didn't have an ESA, like an Ethiopian Eritrean Student Association.
Okay.
But it had a Black Student Association, which I was very active in. I loved, being around community, planning events. Eventually, I guess people recognize my energy, so I got to be president of that. And I'm also very interested in social justice issues, particularly, refugee and migrant issues. And I can kind of talk about my origin story on that a little bit later. But that's kind of an area where I've really focused in on high school. And so, I started a club with my friend, dedicated to those issues. And, we do a bunch of things, whether it's like, advocating on the Hill, whether it's volunteering with refugee families, whether it's organizing drives or fundraisers. That's been a big part of my high school life. So I'd say, extracurricularly, I like to think I have a healthy life. I like to think things are happening. You asked earlier, how do you manage your time? That's a question I've asked myself a lot throughout high school. Candid honesty, probably could be better at time management, to be honest. It's kind of, I don't know, you kind of learn to take advantage of all the time you do have. Like, for me, I remember a sample day in, like, my junior year. I'd wake up before school, I have, like, orchestra practice or something. That's, like, an hour before school. Then you have your classes and lunch, and then after school, I'd have to go to, like, let's say a Black Student Association meeting. And then you have, track practice, which runs until, let's say, like, 5:30. By the time you get home and eat dinner and all that, it's like 7, 8 o'clock, and you have just piles of homework. When you're put into a lot of situations like that, you kind of have to get creative. And and you have to make some sacrifices too. So for me, it would be like, every night before I go to sleep, I'd plan out the next day. And I'd like look for any spare pockets of time and I'd take advantage of them. Whether that's like, okay, I can't afford to do homework tonight, just not enough hours of sleep, I'll do it at lunch tomorrow. Or, I'll plan this conference like about an hour later than it really needs to start, so I can fit in some time to do homework or studying. Or I'll take advantage of a free period I get when a teacher's out to do this work or this work. And I'll be honest, like, there are days in high school I did not get a lot of sleep, but honestly, I do the same all over again. I think really the key, like, aspect of it, in order to do these things and to make the sacrifices and to, like, kind of have the energy to keep going, is to do the things you love. Like, if I was doing, like, a little bit more about me, I'm very much like liberal arts, pre-law, government, international relations. That's my kind of thing.
We'll talk about that later on, about your future aspirations.
I'll keep it down. But like, if instead of, like, I don't know, Model UN, if it was like, I don't know, like the mathletes or the chemistry team, I would not be as good at managing my time. I'd probably miss more deadlines. I probably, wouldn't look forward to it. I'd probably be behind on it because, I just wouldn't want to do it. So I really think the key is just find what you love doing, and then it'll sort itself out.
And, I really love that you have the academics and you also have the wellness, because you do need to move around. And then the spiritual aspect. So you mentioned the extracurriculars that you do, and I also would like to point out that you are part of the pre-campus ministry or high school ministry, and you serve there as a student coordinator. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I remember it was sophomore year, high school, 10th grade, and it was just some fall day, and my mom was like, "Hey, Ethan, there's this really cool program, this cool organization called hobbies. They do a lot of great programs for high school kids, so on and so on." And she was like, "They have like this English Bible study sessions too." And I was like, okay, that's cool. So she gave me the link, and it would be like every Friday, there'd be like a SE's who would talk to like a group of kids, me, and it was over Zoom, so kids across the country. And he would teach to us about the Bible and so on and so on. And it was a very cool experience. But I remember, like, after a few weeks, there was some issue on scheduling, and the guesties wasn't able to make it anymore. And I remember the program kind of coordinator, he reached out to me because I was pretty active in the class. He recognized me. He's like, hey, Ethan, the guest season is able to make it. It seems like we might need to close the program down for the year until we find a new priest for the next school year. By any chance, would you like to lead it? And for me, this was a very big ask. Like, I'm Ethiopian Orthodox, yes, but I was not a diakon, didn't really have any like religious training. Like, I wanted to be there to be the student. So it was very daunting, but I was like, what's there to lose? So I agreed. I will admit, the first few sessions were a little painful. I tried to teach as the guesties have, I think I tried to start with the story of like Adam and Eve or something, and I was just, next week rolled around, I did a little introduction. My name's Ethan, so on, I'll be the replacement teacher, and I tried a monologue, but like, it was kind of those things on a Zoom classroom where like everybody's like cameras off, kind of awkward, like, you always have that like one class with that teacher, and it was just hard to get through. And then, at the end I finished my little monologue, and then we all logged off, but I was like, I can't do it like this. Like, that did not go well. So I remember the next week what I started doing was I started opening with a question, and we get a little circle going, but then I kind of like, I'd add on, right? I'd add like additional questions, like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? Talk to me about your experience. Talk to me about your week. And eventually people started talking more, which is, big sigh of relief, but it kind of matured into something I wasn't expecting. I felt like there was like a want. I feel like a lot of, like, even me included, a lot of us probably found out about it through our parents or through our churches about this program. But as we started talking more and earnestly, you start to recognize there was like a real desire, at least in like children of diaspora like me, to find out more about our culture and religion. Because there is a language barrier and there are other barriers, being Ethiopian Orthodox in America. So once we started having the conversation flowing, it was really beautiful what started happening. And every week, I'd start to look forward to it. And I didn't feel like a teacher anymore. We'd shoot, we go back and forth about like important questions, like, between like, what's the tension between like, personal morality and church authority, the struggles of being children of the diaspora, worshiping like a traditional conservative religion in a modernizing nation. And it was really beautiful. I was involved in that program rest of 10th grade. By 11th grade, they found another coordinator, so I kind of stepped back as lead, but I stayed involved. And yeah, so that's kind of where I've been with the program since then.
Wow, that's great. You found yourself teaching, and what were some of the things that you took away from that experience?
I'd say the biggest thing is, when faced with like a challenge or something surprising or new, my biggest strength wasn't myself. Like, when I tried to lead myself, when I tried to like be like kind of teach like the guest Jesus had, I failed miserably. So my biggest strength lies in leveraging the strengths of those around me. Like, our most formative meetings, the ones that we looked forward to, happened because everybody pitched in. There is such like intellectual and spiritual diversity present in that room and those Zoom rooms that it made all of us want to keep on going there. So I'd say that was the biggest lesson. Your greatest strength isn't yourself, but it's those around you.
I really love that. I'm going to have to steal that. So speaking of challenges, tell me a little bit about like your high school experience overall. I'm sure you've shared a little bit about your experience, but what about some of the challenges and obstacles, and how did you overcome that?
Okay. For a little bit of background, so high school, I go to a Catholic school in like North Bethesda called Georgetown Prep.
Okay.
Before that, like when I was in elementary school, I was in a bunch of different like school systems. I was in, Alexandria County Public Schools, Arlington County Public Schools, Howard County Public Schools, Charles County. Like, I was all over the map, and I had a lot of cool experiences. In middle school, I was even in DC. But high school was the first time I was at a school for like solid 4 years, uninterrupted, whatever. And, I liked my high school experience. It was a great experience. I'd do it again. It's a great school. It was nice to go to a school, even if it wasn't Orthodox, had some Christian foundations. But I'd say there were some very, like, obvious challenges. Like, one, before we get to, like, academics or extracurriculars, a big one for me was kind of access to my culture. Okay. Like, I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. Like, it's pretty much, it's a second Northeast, to be honest. And like I was used to, living within the culture. Barbershop I go to, the people are Ethiopian. The church, the sermons I listen to, my is, and my family, my friends. But for the first time, when I went to this new high school, like I was out of a school of, I don't know, hundreds of kids. I was like one of two Abishas, not in my class, not in my grade, in the whole school. So that was something very new to me. And I'd say a big part of my experience was kind of finding a cultural connection. I mean, in part, I'm happy I had that experience because I feel like it's going to mirror what it's like for a lot of kids in the area when we go off to college and we're not in like, classroom where there's 5, 6 other Abisha kids. So it was important. It taught me the importance of, I don't know, kind of finding your people. I found the BSA, which is our Black Student Association, and there was comfort in that. But I also wanted to feel more connection to my Ethiopian roots on a daily basis. And, I found ways to do that, whether it's the Sunday school at church, whether it's would talk to my other friends and I'd help out with like, speaking more Amharic with my family at home, like organizing things. So I think going to a school where it's kind of paradoxical, where there's less Ethiopian people, I learned to grow towards my culture. Like I learned to embrace it more wholeheartedly. So that was, I'd say, social challenges. I'd say other challenges academically. I kind of spoke on it before, where it was like, there's just so many things to do. And I'm the type of person where like, I want to do everything. Like I want to, like everything I see is just so cool. I want to be part of it. So learning how to cut back, learning the time management skills, which I kind of spoke on before, like really prioritizing what you want, what you need, were pretty important. I'd say like one very central, I don't know if you call it a challenge, but a big growth moment for me in high school. It was, and I remember it was throughout high school, but it started in 9th grade where like I would start thinking more and more, and I had great teachers and great classes where I'd be like, what do I want out of this life? Like, I feel like everybody, especially if you grow up in America, you hear the common mantras like, get good grades, go to a good college, get a high paying job.
Yeah.
And those are very important and you should do those, but like what's the end goal? Like is like we know the point of life isn't just to, get a high paying job. It makes like, it should be, something you look forward to, It'd be nice to have those comforts, it'd be nice to bring up your community, but it's like, at the end of the day, are you going to value more professional success or community service? Or like, and for me, it was interesting because throughout middle school, I've kind of had that mindset, just like, all right, I'm here to get good grades, I'm here to excel, I'm here to do my best. And then, but at the same point, there was another tension for me because I come from like a very religious background, a very Christian background. And those are important things I've heard from my parents and, my society about excelling and all that. But on the other hand, I was thinking about like, what is my church saying? And my church, those aren't the lessons you hear, get good grades, do all that in church. You hear, take care of your neighbor, look after the needy, look over to the marginalized. And for me, it was a very important moment in high school where it was like, okay, how is it possible that I can balance my, career aspirations and my professional aspirations while at the same time prioritizing giving back to my community? Am I prioritizing more over the other? I would think, like, when I was younger, I would have, like, these dreams about being successful, maybe, like, being rich or whatever. But then if I thought about it, I'd be like, but I never had, like, similar dreams of giving back or, doing more for my community. So it was a very important reckoning for me when I was young. And that's kind of what kind of guided my mindset. And I started evolving more to, like, how can I live my life in a way that serves my community and upholds my Christian ideals.
Yeah, that was really beautiful because we sometimes forget that when we are, when we're students, we want to achieve a certain thing, and whether that's the monetary gain or the status, we kind of get lost into that. So it's very important that we bring it all back to our community and, specifically whether that's giving back or serving in the church or using your talents to serve the church. So thank you for sharing that. What about your personal interests or hobbies? What do you do outside of, what do you do on your free time?
Okay, what do I do in my free time? That's kind of a tough question because I say a lot of my extracurriculars kind of bleed over, but I mentioned before, I like to stay active, and that kind of evolves throughout, where it's been. I'm not out on the track or I'm running, miles like I used to, but I try and spend some time in the gym. I try and go out, try and go walks, play with my brother, stuff like that. I mentioned earlier, like I'm a big like nut for like current events, international relations, and it's a bit nerdy. It doesn't really seem like a hobby, but for me, it's cool. Like going online, seeing what's happening in the world, looking at current events. I love to hang out with my friends. I like to have fun. You know, it's important to remember. Like at the end of the day, I'm in high school. Are there any high schoolers out here like listening to this? Like you're not a teenager forever. Like you have like there are important things to do to set yourself up for later, but like these years are also for you to enjoy. So I like to hang out with my friends, whether it's just like random things like going to each other's houses, hanging out at the mall, whether it's I don't know like going to the beach, stuff like that. I like to have some downtime. I like to relax with them as well, kind of cement those bonds, kind of like make memories that may not have to that I can look on I don't know years in the future. So kind of a little bit of everything. Kind of just like to enjoy where things are.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that you schedule your days. So today you would schedule your day for tomorrow. So it's all about maximizing your time and using it efficiently. So you're able to kind of head upon all the different parts of your life. Like no time basically gets wasted, essentially. And so let's get into your future aspirations. Congratulations again for getting accepted into Harvard University.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about when you found out. Like, what was your reaction, and what do you hope to study at Harvard University? And I know you mentioned it earlier, so but I'm going to ask it again.
I'll do a little refresher. I'm looking towards studying government, maybe pre-law track. When I found out, okay, I don't know if I've told you this, but in the college admissions process, different schools, they let you know at different times about what happens. Mm-hmm. And I remember for me, Harvard, all the Ivy League schools, they came out on the same day. And it's kind of, it's I guess for like for 12th graders who are applying to those schools, it's a big day, Ivy Day. A lot of stress, people might be looking at it. Some people will, a lot of hope, so on and so on. And I'd gone a little bit overboard in my college application process. I'd applied to, frankly, too many schools. So on Ivy Day, I was waiting to hear back from 8 schools.
Okay.
7 schools. So you had Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Columbia, UPenn, Brown, and Duke. Those are the schools I was waiting to hear back from. And on the day, I think it was like 7 o'clock p.m. was when they all came out. I was just opening them, and I was very fortunate. I got into all of them. And like at that point, like I don't know, the words clearly can't describe what it was like.
Mm-hmm. Xavier Miskin, like
Xavier Miskin, that's all you can say.
Glory be to God. Yeah.
But it was incredible since I remember, like after I finished opening them, like my dad immediately started calling all the family, all the relatives, anybody he could think about, tell them the good news. I just felt blessed, like really. Like college admissions process is a very heavy one. Like it's a lot of stress, a lot of things you can see online about who gets in, the statistics. All your friends are talking about it, so it's a very stressful process. At the end of it, I was kind of relieved to be done with it, really. And I was, very lucky. That's something to look forward to. So it was very cool. I got to tour these schools with my parents. It's like incredible to say like you get to choose this school. Like the fact that I had choices was wild to me. Like it wasn't just like, okay, I'm going here. Like it was a cool process, and getting to say like, okay, I choose to go to Harvard. I don't know, like God is good.
Yeah.
That's all you can say.
Glory be to God, definitely. And so what are you most excited about as you head to Harvard?
Oof. That's a tough question. There's a lot of things to be excited about. I'd say I'm excited to be a college student, like in and of itself. Like I'm excited to, I don't know, kind of have the freedom to explore, like what am I interested, like what do I want to do? I know it's a question I ask myself a lot in high school, but it's kind of like, all right, what are my passions? Like college is the time to explore. There's so many opportunities, so many things. Like right now I say, okay, I want to study government, maybe go pre-law, but that can change in so many ways. There's so many like resources and opportunities. You can get involved in so many things in college. Mm-hmm. I think it's an incredible time. And I just hope I make advantage of all that there's to offer. Excited to go to Boston. There's a pretty strong ESA at Harvard in the Boston colleges, Ethiopian Eritrean Student Association. So I'm happy to have that too. Definitely plan on joining it. And yeah, I guess it's a lot to look forward to. It's kind of hard to say.
And maybe you'll also create a campus ministry.
Of course, yeah. I look forward to it.
For at Harvard University. And so, you know, while you were in high school, you had the academic, the spiritual background. So tell us a little bit about how you plan to make sure that you don't fall into temptation. Because I also, you know, went to college in the States, and there's a lot of things that could pull you, you know, to the side, or there's a lot of temptations. So how do you plan on making sure that your spiritual life stays intact?
I think that's a really important question to hit on. Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to be excited for college, and a lot of things to look forward to. But like, frankly speaking, college is a tough time when it comes to your Christian ideals. There's a lot of things that just run directly contrary to it. I'd say for me, what I'm pretty happy about is, I think what you should do is kind of find your people, find your group. Remember, when I visited Harvard, I found their Ethiopian Student Association pretty quickly. I found kids who were Abisha. I talked to them. And also, like, I found out kids who were Orthodox. Like, kids, I was talking to them, and they would talk about how on Sundays they would all take a train up to a church, an Orthodox church, to, you know, go to Kedase. They would celebrate Fasika together, or they would, you know, observe their fasts together, or they might do prayers together. I think it depends on, you know, what type of college you go to, where you are. For me, nothing really outdoes the human-to-human connection. I mean, like, Christians are meant to be in community. That's, you know, that's kind of paramount to the faith. And finding your community where you're at, finding people who can, you know, keep you faithful, finding people who, you know, kind of help you keep the faith, who make you feel strong about your ideals, who make you feel secure in your ideals, I think that's important. And for me, that's a community I'm very much excited to find and very much excited to be part of. And, like, I'm not going to be naive. Like, there's a lot of things going on in college, a lot of temptations. There's a lot of chances to mess up, a lot of things going on. And I'm not sure, you know, I can't guarantee I'll be the perfect Christian every single day of my college experience. But at least I can say every single day I'll wake up trying to be that perfect Christian. And it's easier when you have somebody next to you to help you do it, or a community around you to help you do it.
Yeah, you know, definitely community is important. Like you mentioned in your high school career, from your family to your friends, and to the pre-campus ministry community. So yeah, what advice would you like to give to other students who aspire to either achieve where you are now, or any general advice that you would like to give?
Okay. Some of this might sound a little cliche, so I apologize. But I'd say for high school students, kind of, if I had to summarize it, like, be passionate, like, work hard. Like, academics are important. Like, it's kind of the reality of, like, where we're in right now with the whole college process and all that stuff. Like, good academics, good testing, they kind of get your foot in the door into these places. They don't really guarantee that you'll be able to end up where you want to. It's kind of different than where it was decades ago. So you need to make sure your academics are tip-top. But, like, if you're stressing about, oh, what should I be a part of? Oh, what should I do? Like, oh, what clubs are, like, have the greatest chances for me to go where I want? Don't worry. I'd say don't worry about that. Like, find out, like, what you really passionate about. Like, what gets you excited? Like, what do you think about when you're not with your friends? What do you think, like, what do you like to daydream about? Find that and do your best to be the best at it. And if not the best, do your best to commit yourself to that. I think we tend to underestimate ourselves. We think we're kind of confined to who we are today. So it's kind of hard for us to see us, like, tangibly taking that next step or doing more. Find out what gets you excited and commit yourself to that. Is it starting that club? Is it researching this art? Is it helping people in need? Is it, chemistry, or is it current events, or is it, sports, or is it just sports statistics? Find something and, like, obsess over it. Like, you should be obsessed over this stuff. Even if people call you crazy, just have that energy. Like, keep going after it, and trust you, things will work out better that way. It's so much easier to become successful or to deal with failure when you've been doing what you love. It's so much easier to achieve, and you have more solace in the times you do fail. Because I have failed before when you haven't cheated yourself out of things you love. So I'd say that's my advice. Work hard. never lose sight of your goals, but at the same time, do what you love. And I genuinely mean that, and it's worked out for me.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I am also just curious to know, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oof, that's a tough question. I haven't thought about that too much. I'd say I've kind of focused more on, I don't know, a lot can happen in college. Things completely change. Like, even 2 years ago, I had no idea where I'd be today. But I'd say, like, tentatively 5 years. I don't know. I'd say, like, professionally, I'd be done with undergraduate, maybe going to law school, but I kind of want to take a break from that, to be honest. Take a break from school for a bit. I've been in school for a while. I'd like to go out in the workforce. And I don't know, whether that's finding a way to continue working within my community, within the Ethiopian community, giving back, whether it's through volunteering or maybe somehow career-wise. Maybe if I end up, I don't know, I'm interested in like politics and current events, so maybe I'll end up working for the government, maybe like somewhere in the Department of State. I haven't mentioned this before, but I'm studying Chinese currently.
Okay.
It's something I've been studying for a while, so might do something with that. But beyond professionally, I think more importantly, like I want to stay connected to my faith, spirituality. I found like the toughest times in my life have been when I didn't feel that connected to God. And kind of the times I felt more secure in who I am is when I felt like I've had a stronger relationship. So I'd like to keep that relationship strong. I'd like to stay close to my friends and family. I'd like to be happy. And beyond that, there's just so many unknowns, but that's kind of roughly what I'm thinking about.
Any last thoughts? Any last words?
Any last words?
Anything you'd like to say?
Anything I'd like to say? Kind of gave my advice for those listening earlier, but I would say, enjoy the day. There are a lot of big issues in the world, a lot of big problems in the world. It's easy to become discouraged very quickly. Find your rock, and whether it's your friends, whether it's your family, find it in your church, find it in the things you love. Find your rock, the thing that keeps you grounded, the thing that keeps you working even when you hit a wall or when things have a tough time, and just stick by it. Don't let it go. One of the most important things I think I've learned is find what makes you secure and find what keeps you grounded and stick by it. So I'd say those are my final words for anybody listening, and I guess for any point of life you may be in.
All of us have learned from your story and your experience, so thank you again for joining us. Glory be to God.
Glory be to God. Thank you so much for having me.